Today we have Ray Miller here with Balfour Beatty. He led the implementation of DESTINI Estimator for his entire company. And with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to you, Ray.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm Ray Miller. I'm the VP of Preconstruction here in Atlanta. And in addition to my day job, I'm currently trying to lead our enterprise-wide implementation of a new estimating software platform to all of our offices and all of our divisions. So basically, I've been with Balfour Beatty about 3.5, 4 years, and when I came into Atlanta and in talking with some of our my partners in some of our other offices, it became immediately saw that we had a need for a common estimating platform in Atlanta and in our region, and then ultimately that grew into an enterprise-wide initiative. So one of the things that we did was we were able to bring together, and I appreciate the fact that we had the corporate support to do this, was to bring together all of the leadership from all of our offices, all the pre-construction leadership, and we had then the ability to sit down and kind of take a step back and understand what tools we were using, what goals we wanted out of this initiative, and it was a very interesting exercise. In our company at the time, we were actually using something like 7 different takeoff tools, 4 or 5 different estimating tools, and at the end of the day, we recognized that we were being very inefficient in capturing our cost history, and ultimately we realized that we wanted to put ourselves in a position to be able to have efficient access to all of that cost history from the various regions that we represent, as well as all the various markets. So some of the goals that came out of that meeting were to standardize our estimating and our risk management best practices, and to do that by using, really the impetus of it would be to use a single enterprise-wide solution as our primary estimating tool. We also recognized that it needed to be we needed to have a common database, so to make cost history collection that much easier. And the database-driven platform really needs to facilitate a more efficient entry of quantities, cost items, as well as activities. And you know, I've been into business a long time. In previous lives, it's difficult to get that level of support for a common database across the entire enterprise, but this group and this company was 100% behind that, which really makes the end goal of capturing cost history something that we feel like is very achievable and attainable. We want to capture and report all of our national cost history and our project attributes. That'll really facilitate a more efficient cost sharing and cost modeling process. And again, the ability to have everyone using the same cost database really makes it very simple. And being on the same platform, the situation that we were in prior to this initiative was you were getting multiple estimates in multiple platforms, summarized in multiple ways, some potentially coded in multiple ways, and it was very, very difficult and time-consuming to try to I guess, cull through all of that different information, understand what you had, and try to put together and use it in an efficient way to build cost models and benchmark other estimates against it. And really, the last goal we had from a software perspective was providing both our internal and our external clients across the entire enterprise a uniform, standardized reporting structure. And that was very, very important too. And it leads to other areas such as general conditions and general requirements and things like that, where we can actually start to capitalize on cost history for those items as well. So we also recognize that, you know, from some of the things that we were striving for, what we wanted from the estimating software itself was, again, uniform, consistent reporting, a national cost database. We thought that it would be very advantageous to be able to have a common 2D and or 3D takeoff tool, something that would help facilitate model-based estimating. Everyone's been selling it forever, and really very few people actually deliver it. And it's something that we feel strongly to try to get ahead of the curve on. Also, again, cost history, estimate comparison, benchmarking, cost modeling, being able to sort your data in multiple ways, being able to have assemblies for database or data entry, make it more efficient as much as possible, be able to break out alternates and VE ideas, and really to help facilitate brand consistency across the country in all of our multiple offices. So once we decided that we wanted to go down that route and evaluate various software tools, we put together an evaluation team. And so we were able to basically identify who we thought would be good subject matter experts in each office. And again, from a corporate support perspective, it was great. This was really kind of a ground up implementation. And by that, I mean, it was the Precon leadership that had corporate support, and Precon leadership was 100% behind it. It was their idea. It was derived through them. And so it helped a lot with being able to free up resources available from each office to be a part of the evaluation and ultimately part of the implementation team. So our evaluation team, again, consisted of someone from each office. We actually created, with Beck Tech in particular, they helped us kind of create an evaluation structure. Pop that up on the screen here real quick, which I thought was very helpful. When we pulled all of our team together, we went to one site and we basically conducted a 2-day in-person training. And this was Beck's, I guess, step-by-step process over a basically 2-week period is how we went through our exploration. So we looked at a couple of other different systems, and this was Beck's way of pulling it together, which I thought was a little bit more comprehensive and organized than some of the other tools that we looked at. So once we went through that 2-week exercise, had people actually do a little bit of piloting on some small parts and pieces of the estimating tool. We took a very comprehensive look at it, and you can kind of see by the scoring structure. I'll pop that up here as well. We pulled together a pretty comprehensive scoring structure on things that we felt like were very important, such as applying cost, comparing estimates, reporting estimates, how do you apply your indirect costs. So we kind of broke it down that way. We had everybody fill out these evaluation forms, and this piece right here is really how we pulled everything together and evaluated it. This was on a score of 0 to 3, and so, for example, if you look at comparisons out of our whole group, this was one of the strengths of we felt of Beck of the estimator software. And you can kind of see some of the comments that we pulled together. So this came from everybody that was on the evaluation team, and this is what ultimately we used to decide which tool we wanted to move forward with, and who we wanted to present to our executive leadership team to get the corporate support to begin the implementation. So again, obviously we ultimately selected Beck's estimator software, and we began the implementation process at that time. So, and this really started about, it actually started last year in probably October, November is when one of the main things that we felt like we needed to do was with Beck's support was to do an intensive due diligence study. So we actually went around or had each office come and present to our initiative leaders as well as to Beck on some specific things so that we could understand what markets each one of our offices were working in, who some of their specific clients were, if they had any specific client reporting requirements, you know, what tools they were currently using. In fact, I think I have, let's see here. I don't think I have that available, but we were looking at kind of what their typical workflow was, what software tools they were using. Did they have any cost data? Were they using Excel and reusing templates, or did they actually, were they like some of our offices were using MC squared and they were actually using the cost database? And was the cost database current? Were they using any assemblies? Like for example, in MC squared, they're using systems. How they manage their indirect costs. Were they capturing any cost history, project statistics, attributes, anything like that? And then what type of tools they were using for takeoff, and how they used that in their workflow. So that was a very significant and time-consuming exercise. It took us about, we actually did pretty well. We crammed it in about 2 months, but it was important to get the buy-in with everyone across the enterprise that we were willing to take the time, and corporate was willing to support the exercise, that we went to each office and to try to understand how each one of them worked and what their workflow was, and felt like it was very important that they understand that we're going to, as we work forward on this initiative and this change, that the change management aspect of understanding the tool needed to be flexible enough to respond to everybody's needs was very important. So as we began 2017, toward the end of 16, early 17, we went through our phase 1 implementation, and just some of the things that we did. We established some national, we standardized all of our sort codes in our database. So we're using CSI, master format, uniformat, and then we went in and standardized bid package coding. We standardized some other breakdowns that we typically see and use. So every item in our cost database now has standard sort codes, which will really help facilitate grabbing cost history and being able to efficiently use cost history in the future. We started to develop common reporting and analysis tools across the enterprise. Basically developed one master cost database that had, we looked at it like it was more important to understand what the activities or the cost items were, have them coded all similarly, not worry about cost. And then as long as we manage that one cost database kind of behind the scenes relative to the items, we would manage all of the costs associated with those items regionally or locally in each office. And that's how we've implemented our database piece. We created baseline assemblies, so a group of assemblies that we wanted in our first implementation, the first phase, to help facilitate some easier data entry, kind of respond to some of the users that were using MC squared, used to using systems, and we were able to do that. We another thing that was important was to begin to develop divisional, regional rollout and administration plans, how we want to administer this system, as well as the cost database and the information associated with it. And then we began to set up a national internal BBC as well as a BECTEC support structure. That's been put in place now to be able to capture. I think it's very important to be able to give all of the users, as we're rolling out and deploying, the opportunity to provide feedback, recognize the fact that their issues are being addressed and taken seriously, as well as capturing any enhancement requests and ideas that they have that we may use in the future to be able to enhance the software to work even more efficiently with BEC. Let's see here. We also went into phase 2. We went through the implementation, rolled everything out. Now we've actually begun to train and deploy. So over the summer, that's what we did. We did a very intensive week-long training of our core implementation group, which were our subject matter experts from each office. So again, it was great to have the support from the pre-construction leadership as well as corporate to be able to free the resources up for an entire week or longer to be able to be part of this training and final, final training prior to going out locally. We then regionally began to roll out and deploy. So we instituted some 3-day training classes with the recognition that, we went to each office and really tried to keep the training for the users on a high level, because I think it's important to recognize, and this is a lesson learned in another project or other project initiatives that I've done like this in other companies, is that once you roll something out like this and train folks, probably 80% of them are going to go back and have to keep using the same tools that they were using. And so it's really important to just give them the understanding and the high level of how you get in it, how you use it, ultimately what's the tool going to be able to bring to them, and rely on your subject matter experts in each office to have a local administration and rollout plan to help initiate as well as continue to deploy the software as it's appropriate in each office on each project. So as some projects come to a close, that's a good time for a team or an estimator to begin to make that transition from whatever tools they were using to estimator, and that's how we're rolling out now. Our 2D and 3D takeoff tools have been implemented, and we're going to begin the training and rollout for those parts as well. That's actually built-in tools with the estimator software, which we think is going to be very efficient. We're excited about. We're continuing to refine our cost database, our national cost database, as well as each local office is beginning to populate and manage the cost associated with each item in the database. We have a national administration team that meets on a regular basis. Our subject matter experts are still meeting. We basically meet every other week right now. This is a very important time as we're training and deploying to keep the feedback flowing and keep the momentum going. We're documenting all of the new workflow that comes out of instituting a new software system like this and creating new SOPs. And we're also right now generating estimates to populate our cost history data. So right now we're actually deployed to about 90% of our offices, which is about 90 estimators. We've got the support structure in place. We're facilitating capturing feedback by the use of something as simple as Smartsheet that the users all have access to. We've got continued corporate support. In 2018, we have a scope of work that we put together so that we can continue to support the enhancement requests as this evolves and we begin to get more feedback and enhancement opportunities. And also to support some other long-term, long-term goals and new modules that BECTEC, we know they're working towards and that they're going to be rolling out in 2018. We want to be able to be in a position to take advantage of those. So we're partnering with Beck, and we're focusing on capturing our cost history right now and building up momentum with all of the users and estimators so that we have a good set of legacy data so that in 2018, as cost history becomes something that estimator fully supports, we'll be able to capitalize on that and hit the ground running with the cost history tool. Just real quick, some of the challenges that I've had or our team has had, and if you kind of go through the same implementation, some things you can expect. Anytime you introduce change, that's always, especially in the estimating world, that always becomes one of the most important aspects of a successful implementation. And it's not just on the user level, it's also managing upward to your executive level and your leadership and keeping the executive corporate level informed as to what's going on. First cost is always kind of everybody has sticker shock, the cost of the implementation, but it's really important that that as you're working through that with your corporate leadership, that they understand that the implementation is one thing, but when you start to begin to deploy and train and train your users, oftentimes that becomes an afterthought, and it's very important that you have some financial commitment to support that. The duration of the implementation, it usually takes a lot longer than everyone anticipates it will or thinks that it should. Ours has actually gone very quickly, and Beck has been very good to work with. We actually started due diligence in November of last year, and we're not even a year into it. We're already rolled out to most of our offices, and with the goal by the end of the year that all of our users are using Estimator across the enterprise. Maintaining momentum is very important as part of the change management piece. One other thing is keeping up with the latest innovations as the software systems continue to evolve. One thing is to recognize that as you begin your implementation process and you start introducing the tools to all your subject matter experts, it spurs a lot of creativity, a lot of creative thought, and people begin to say, hey, wouldn't it be great if it could do this or that? And one of the things is to make sure that you are working with a company that will help support that and listen to some of the requests that you have, and to make sure you document those ideas. Legacy data from other systems is difficult to capture, so it's important to recognize that the ultimate goal for doing something like this is to be able to have enough commonality that it makes capturing cost history very efficient and benchmarking very efficient. And there's going to be some difficulty in grabbing legacy data, converting it, and be able to capitalize on what you have, and just recognize that there are ways to do it, but it's always difficult to capture. And again, talking about maintaining corporate financial support as the needs evolve, that's something that's important to recognize, that you need to be able to, you're going to recognize that you're going to have to make a little bit of an investment or more of an investment to be able to make the tool work specifically for you, no matter what software you go with. Some of the lessons learned is, and this was one of the things that struck me here, was the best change happens from the ground up, and that's really true. That's how this was implemented. It wasn't from the corporate level down. It was really from pre-construction leadership. That's who drove the process, and local users became subject matter experts, and that's really where the helped a lot with the change management as well, and made this one of the smoothest implementations of a new workflow and or software system that we've had in the company. So identifying the need, creating consensus, that really has more to do with, again, managing up and making sure that everybody understands what your goals are, how you're going to measure yourself, and keeping them informed as to the successes as you're going through the long-term implementation. Creating a detailed project plan or charter, that's very important, something that you'll follow, something that really stresses how you are going to measure yourself, what does success mean to you and to the company. And that'll also help you with managing upward. Identifying savings and or efficiencies to be gained. So what are the indirect positive outcomes of using something like a new software system? It's easy for us to be able to say, you know, just being on one platform, being able to use and capture cost history from all around the different markets and the enterprises, the different offices that we have, to be able to efficiently benchmark and cost model on different different estimates, and do it 10 times more efficiently than what we're currently doing it. That alone actually pays for any of the implementation costs that we've had. And then really finally, one thing was teaming with an organization, or, you know, like BECTEC has with us, that's willing to proactively support the evolution of your ideas. So as we've gone through this implementation, again, a lot of creative ideas came out of it, a lot of, wouldn't it be great if it could do this, or man, in order to support our workflow, it has to do this. And Beck has done a great job with working with us and responding to some of the things that we felt like were must-haves prior to even rolling out and implementing software across the offices before we even started doing training. And they continue to respond to some of our enhancement requests and work it into, I think, some of the planning that they have in the next couple of years. Some of the things that we are nice to haves or want to haves are already being planned for or being put into the next version. So that was very, very important to us as well. Measuring the return on investment. I talked a little bit about the efficiency gains just being on a single integrated platform. Just if I have a project come up here in Atlanta that we're not used to doing, and I can reach out to our DC office and a couple Florida offices or whatever and grab a couple of estimates that they've already done, benchmark them, use them. That's just so much more efficient than where we were before, and it pays for itself just in those efficiency gains. Our internal and external client communication, being able to efficiently display and communicate the estimate information itself, the variance reports, benchmarking and comparisons, all of that's inherent with the tool, and it's really something that we feel like allows us to almost give live feedback to our clients internally and externally. We talked about capitalizing on our cost history. That was our end goal ultimately for this whole system. And just again, we just rolled out here in Atlanta about 2 months ago, and I was able to use the comparison tool in Estimator, and a couple of on an elementary school that we were chasing. I had 3 recent elementary schools that we GMP'd over the last couple of years. I was able to quickly put them into Estimator and use that information to create a cost model on a new project. I went into the presentation, the usual 30-minute presentation that you have to jam everything into, but I was able to actually put Estimator software live up on the screen, do a comparison live for the client, drill down to the details of the differences between their cost model and the cost history, and create and basically show them that this is the way we're going to work with you as we're working through establishing the basis of budget, basis of design. And that was the feedback that we received. That was why we were awarded the project. So So it was great to be able to do that and basically be able to say, you know, it's the new, we were getting immediate feedback and immediate dividends paid by implementing the new software. And that is everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Ray. We do have some questions. I know we're right at 10:30, but we will stick around a few more minutes just to answer a few questions. If we don't get to them, we will send you an email with the answer after the presentation. Ray, you mentioned having a lot of different tools before this initiative. I'm assuming, you know, they were the best in breed products. Why did you not pick one of those tools that was already being used? And why BECTEC? You know, I know you went into the scorecards, but could you elaborate why you didn't stick to what you already had?
Yeah, it's really, we actually had 4 different estimating tools across the enterprise. And so, for example, some of our offices were just using Excel, some of our offices were using MC squared, some were using WinEst, and some were using Timberline. And so none of them talked to each other. And so, yeah, we had to pick one, and we evaluated all of those. And to be honest with you, the reason that we chose BEC over the other ones, after we did our evaluation, it was a much more integrated tool. It was much more user-friendly and being able to slice and dice the estimate itself. And some of the integrated parts and pieces, the comparison tool that it had built in, as well as the dashboard, which is basically an Excel emulator, allows you to summarize your estimates in whatever format you need to and what you're used to. In Excel, you can do it directly through the dashboard. So I guess the estimator software just had all of that built in. And so we just thought it was a lot more efficient tool, and that's why we chose that over the other tools.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I know you mentioned it's hard to get support from leadership, and this was a ground-up initiative. Can you talk to why this is such a challenge, and how did you get this and continue to maintain their buy-in?
Sure, I think in any company, anytime you are looking to make a first cost investment, just like if you're working with a developer, that they always suffer from that sticker shock. And one of the most important things is to explain and really provide them with an ROI initially, from everything from efficiency gains to, you know, how the tool can be a differentiator. And I think that estimating is, depending on what type of company you work for, sometimes it can be viewed as more of a support service. Also, you have estimators in each office, and sometimes those estimators tend to be put into a silo, just focusing on their clients and you know, their internal clients and their local markets, and not worried too much about really being there for the other offices or that they work for. And I think one of the things that was great here at Balfour is that there was truly ground up consensus that it helps us all to be able to capitalize on all the hard work that we all do. And you know, as a group, and this is industry wide, pre-construction's always being asked to do more with less, and this was seen as one way on the corporate level as well as a ground up level for us to respond to that demand and still be as efficient and provide our clients with the same level of service that we thought was important.
Okay, and then I know you talked to just kind of 90% rolled out on the regional offices. How many regional offices does Balfour Beatty have?
Basically, we have different regions. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We actually have more. I think we have 12 offices, and I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here just in the southeast. We have a big office in down in Texas, and we have multiple offices out in Southern California, Northern California, and up in the Northwest. And right now, we're rolled out to the 90%. The only place we haven't fully rolled out to is the Northwest, and we're working towards that direction. One of the things that is, if anybody works in the Northwest, understand that a lot of the companies there self-perform a lot of concrete work and/or steel work. So putting ourselves in a position to help support their workflow is the reason why we chose to roll out to them last.
Okay. And then you mentioned paying for 2018 enhancements and kind of working with us as far as those go. Was Beck Tech asking you to pay for product enhancements, or could you talk to how that process went in your implementation?
No, there's a couple of things. Beck Tech will be rolling out with updated versions. I think at least 2 of them in 2018, and I know it's going to be in those versions. So there will be a little bit of implementation cost associated with that to make it a BBC specific tool. But the biggest piece is that there are some enhancements that Balfour Beatty has requested that are actually things that would take software developers to create and actually add to and enhance the tool itself and make it something that we want specific to us. So when there is a request for something that we want that is specific to us, then we're willing to partner up with Beck and help develop that, and so that we can start using it as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation, Ray. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this webinar. Ray, I want to thank you so much for sharing this with everyone, and thank you all for attending today.
Thanks.